Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to Popternative. This is the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, news, sports, pop culture, everything really depending on the guests to talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. You'll recently recognize my guest from Mighty Ducks Game Changers on Disney Plus. Every week a new episode is dropping. Antonio Cayonne is with us. Antonio, welcome to Popternative, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here.
We have another guest too that's on the show as well.
Yeah, he's not on Game Changers, but maybe one day he'll be a game changer himself.
Congratulations, by the way, on being a father.
Thank you very much.
It's an exciting time. I mean, you know, you've been doing this for quite some bit. I mean, you had some Hallmark movies over the years that did fairly well, but I mean, you are part of the Mighty Ducks franchise. I mean, how does that feel right off the bat?
Man, it's crazy. I'll tell you, the best part about it is I'm getting texts and phone calls from friends that I haven't spoken to since I was 12 who are now watching Mighty Ducks with their kids being like, dude, you're a duck.
But it's one of those things you mentioned before we started. I mean, you were a soccer player, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but like you were familiar with the Mighty Ducks and hockey. I mean, it was huge for us growing up, man.
Massive. And everybody knew which player they were. You know what I mean? Like half the kids, wanted to be a Conway. The other, like every kid growing up had a kid on the Ducks that they were like, that's me. It was a way to identify it. It helped teach you something about yourself.
Absolutely. So you play Sophie Hansen-Bott's father, and
Yes.
for the people that are watching it, Sophie is the ringer who was originally on the Mighty Ducks, who are now the bad guys. Goes over to the No Bothers. Pretty cool because we see her parents here and there, but you recently had a pretty big episode for Mighty Ducks Game Changers. That was pretty cool. When you read the script for that, were you like kind of like, oh, cool, like that's pivotal? That's a like TSN turning point, they say, right?
Oh, yeah. I was stoked. I mean, having grown up playing sports myself, I always had parents in the mix, and they were always sort of like soccer moms and dads, which is not that far off from hockey moms and dads. And so it was really exciting to get to look at what parents were seeing when I was a kid and to see where their focus was. And I remember when I read the script for the first time, because it was that scene there was another scene that was written that didn't show up as scripted, but that was the scene that I actually got to audition with, and it was so exciting. It was like,
oh really,
emotional and heartfelt. Yeah, there was just so much depth to it. It was another scene that ended up getting rewritten and not making it to air. But there was a really lovely scene where like the dad comes in and chats with Sophie about the fact that he caught her lying. And it's not so much that he was upset that she was lying. It's that he was upset that she felt like she had to lie to them. And
Absolutely.
He never wanted something like that between them. And so, yeah, it was a really beautiful thing.
It's amazing. And, it's funny because on our show, we've interviewed quite a bit of the cast of the Mighty Ducks Game Changers, and we've interviewed a lot of people from Cobra Kai on Netflix, and it's kind of the same thing a little bit, where the nostalgia and the new wave and the old wave, so to speak, kind of clash together. It's a pretty good tag team, Antonio. I'm not gonna lie, it's a good recipe.
It's amazing. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna start seeing. I think Cobra Kai was obviously very successful. I think Mighty Ducks is going to be, and already is, like, it's captured people's imagination.
It's been a bit different for people that haven't watched it yet. It's episode by episode. They're releasing them every Friday rather than release them all at once.
I'm curious to see what the next sort of like 80s, 90s nostalgia movies are going to be that are going to get the Cobra Kai Mighty Ducks treatment.
Oh, absolutely. It's just like it's weird because I don't know. Well, obviously I'm biased. I love every minute of the show, man. Like I just love like the nostalgia and just they have the music in it, how it looks. I don't know, man. Yeah, it's so
man. The different departments on this show, artistically speaking, were just all at the top of their game. I remember being in it, sitting in the stands and kind of looking around and knowing that we were sitting in something special, but you don't really get a good sense of what it's going to look like. And then that day where I saw the pilot, I was like, yo, these people are really good. It captured the feeling and the original look without compromising anything.
It did though, yes. It did for sure. It's so cool. But for you, like, were you hoping, because like getting back to kind of the Hallmark stuff, Antonio, I mean, you do that type of stuff, you do the Mighty
Yep.
Ducks. Were you hoping, I mean, work is work, a lot of people say. Like I asked someone this question before, right? And they're like, hey, I'll go over the work is. But you were hoping, yeah, that's fair, right? but I mean, it's cool to be able to work on a different variety of projects too, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like on one hand, yeah, work is work, and you kind of go where the work is. But over the course of your life and your career, you certainly start to develop taste for different things, or you start to curate your own interests, and people are drawn to that. And so, if you're lucky, doors open and you get to explore things. I've had the great fortune of exploring all sorts of different roles within Hallmark, and I'm certainly not done. I have more stuff there that I'm.
You did two
in.
films of one movie. Like there was like
I did 2 Christmas and Evergreens.
yeah.
And those were the 2 that I was probably like at the top of the billing. But I've probably done 13 different Hallmarks, which is pretty great. Getting to work with so many different peoples, from producers and directors to other actors. It's a great place. But beyond that, it's really great to get to drop into different franchises and see how things work and play with people.
I interviewed someone who has done a lot of Hallmark movies, and I'm wondering if you crossed paths. Have you ever worked on a movie with Brittany Bristow?
No.
Okay.
I know the name, but
she's done like you quite a few, so you never know. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
It's funny because I live in Ottawa, right? And I know a lot of film. Like, did you ever do a Hallmark movie like in Ottawa or Ottawa area?
I didn't actually. I grew up in Toronto, funny enough, and I didn't do. I didn't even come close to hearing about Hallmark until I moved out to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And since moving out here, everything I've booked has just been out here. There's a ton of Hallmark, so nothing has. Nobody's flown me back home to work on anything.
So you're Canadian. You're a Canadian storyteller. So I feel like nothing crazy, but it's just like I want your opinion on this, Antonio. So you know, there was always this stigma. You know this, that there's a stigma attached to like Canadian content, Canadian shows, that it wasn't as good as stuff from the U.S., right? And then especially like Schitt's Creek and Letterkenny, Kim's Convenience, that throw that out the window, right? Yeah. But talking to a lot of Canadian storytellers, writers, and directors, and I think it's funny because they announced Netflix is getting an office in Toronto recently, so this is why I wanted to ask you this. I mean, there was a little bit of a struggle for Canadian content in terms of getting out there. Like the making of it wasn't a problem. Like I know so many amazing content creators in Canada and directors, but was getting it out there and exposure kind of a hard time for Canadians, do you think still?
Is it still hard? I think it is still hard, but I think it was harder back in the day. I mean, if you look at it right now, you have shows on the air like on NBC. Blind Spot is Martin Jarrow. He's Canadian. You know, Martin Jarrow and Brendan Gall have Netflix things coming out. It's not that there were not people here who were creating content that was worth being watched. I think it's that there were not. The place that we came up, Canada, our networks somehow were very risk averse.
Yes, they were.
If it wasn't really safe, if it wasn't really clean, you know, like there was an old joke, and I don't know how true this still is, but people were afraid to send scripts to CBC because they would get CBC'd, right? Like they would get changed.
I never heard of that.
And turned into something else. And you know, I wasn't on the inside, so I can't tell you how that happened or if it happened, but I can certainly say there's many things I've watched where I watch on the CBC and I'm like, it's okay, until you get something like Schitt's Creek or like Kim's Convenience, you know, which is Dan Levy, which is Ins Choi, and those are creators who, at the very least, had a space where they could be listened to, and they got to do things the way they wanted to, and lo and behold, they're creating the best work on TV.
But you know where I'm coming from, though, right? I don't know if it's like an overcompensation thing, but it just seems like there's like a struggle, and it seems like it's like there and like I said, it's like I don't want to get super like negative or crazy about it, you know what I mean? But it's just like it took Schitt's Creek like a good amount of time to get the recognition it got, right?
Also, like, you know, it's a great question. If Dan Levy's dad wasn't who Dan Levy's dad was, would somebody have taken a gamble on him?
Yeah.
You know, we have Working Moms on TV right now. Working Moms is fantastic. If Catherine Reitman wasn't part of the Reitman family, would somebody have taken a gamble on the story? So what's great is that there are content creators who are kicking the door open, proving that the work is worth the work and that the people can do the work, that there are actors here who can actually do the work.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see, not so much better content, but more content.
Yeah,
And I think that's
absolutely.
one of also the big differences between here and the States. Is in the States, there's so many networks, and every network has to have a lot of content. And so if you start to think about it, cream rises to the top, but the things that are at the bottom, they're fine. They get made, they get forgotten about. In Canada, there's less of everything, so it feels like everything's really important. You put
Absolutely.
something on the air and it tanks, somebody's going to look at that as an indictment. They're going to say, like, oh, well, we gave you a shot. You can never do it again.
Very true. It's funny, like bringing it back to Mighty Ducks at like Disney. It's interesting because there was a show on Disney Channel back in the day called Life with Derek,
Yep.
and I'm sure you know some people that maybe have worked on that, or did you know anyone that worked on that, or have you heard of
I
that
don't think
before?
so. No, but I know the show.
Okay, but that was like a Canadian show bought by
Yep.
Disney, and that was like a rarity, right? That was like
Yep.
straight up like it took place in London, Ontario. It's about hockey. It's about like it is like Derek plays hockey and everything, and like, it was bought by Disney.
Yep.
And I'm kind of like, that's a lot before its time, right? Because that's before Netflix and everything, and that's a cool thing. Because I want to bring it back to Mighty Ducks. I mean, it's just a comfy, cozy, fun family show. There's not much more to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I really respected about the Ducks back then, and that I think that they're nailing now, the young generation that they're bringing up is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm deeply biased, but you have Sway sort of leading the charge from the point of view of being the ringer, making space for women. Disney was very generous and used her family last name as her character's hyphenated last name,
Yep.
which is amazing. Creating a multi-generational link. There's so much there. And then when you actually look at the actress who's playing the role of Sophie, you have this young woman who's full of humility, who's humble, who's intelligent. It's really exciting and making space for other girls her age.
And I will say this too, her parents, like you and the actress that
It's
plays her mother,
Yeah.
what's her name?
Camellia.
Camellia does an amazing job, like so good. But I'm gonna tell you something right now. I've worked in hockey all my life. Okay,
Yeah.
you two exist, but you're even not as bad.
We're not even close.
Like on the show.
I'm like, this is Disney Bad Dad. If you want like Bad Dad, Hockey Dad, it's a very different thing.
Okay, as long as we're on the same page on
Oh,
that.
yeah.
As long
You
as
get more
we're on.
censorship, you get a more puffed out chest.
But I feel like that's a misconception because people who maybe don't know about hockey are gonna watch it and be like, "Oh, Sophie's parents are brutal." But it's like,
Yeah.
wait.
I think what they do a good job of, because it's still Disney,
Yeah.
they're going to sanitize it to make sure that it's like very gentle. But what they do a good job of is capturing the why behind the way the parents behave, and I think that's really important, even if you're not getting the true language, or if you're not getting, you're getting a shinier version of how hockey parents can be.
Absolutely. And one quick question about the Mighty Ducks also before we wrap up as well. I just wanted to know, because everyone's excited for the new episode because the OG Ducks are coming back. And I'm telling you, my group of friends, we haven't stopped talking about that, man.
It's serious.
Okay, it's a big deal. Okay.
Yeah.
And you agree with me. It's a big deal. Okay. Did you have a chance? Was it different days filming? Did you have a chance to meet any of them?
I was on different days. So actually, that's episode, what are we going into? 5 or 6?
Six.
So episode 6. So I was there episode 4 and 5, and then I think 7. So that was like one of my few episodes where I'm not written into it, and you'll find out why. You don't see much of the parents this episode, but I only found out that the OG Ducks were there because if you remember in the pilot, there's the sports psychologist who comes to the game. So he's an actor. Great guy, and he ended up working on the production as well. Started off doing COVID testing, and then working as a PA, and eventually as like a third AD, just because of the opportunity. But he's a fantastic actor, really, really great guy, and he shot me a message being like, "You are missing the most amazing day." He's like, "The Ducks are here." So I didn't even know until I got back. I was gutted.
Well, that whole thing was insane because there were talks about like them coming back, right? And I interviewed Matt Doherty, who played Averman, like a year Like I interviewed him like a year. So I've interviewed him, Marguerite, and Justin Wong Pekiniwa recently about it. They're all excited about it. But Matt Doherty's been on the show before. So like before that, we talked about it like when it was announced that there was going to be a Disney Plus show, right? And he was being very like,
I wonder if you even knew
playing an act or something, being like, I'm as far as I know, we're not going to be involved. Like he was being very like firm about like not being involved, and then of course they're involved. But that whole thing was insane, Antonio, because I remember they posted the photo, right? Remember the photo that got leaked, like, and I put it in my story, and everyone's putting it in our story because Disney posted it on Instagram, right? And then it was removed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it was a story. So it was a room, and that night I was interviewing Kiefer O'Reilly, who plays Logan, right?
Yep. Great
and
kid.
we're doing the interview, and he brings up the photo like in the interview. This was like a couple of days before the episode, like the show was premiering, right? And he was like, "Yeah, like the OG Ducks coming back. I wasn't allowed to talk about it, but now I can. I'm excited." And then I'm kind of like, he's talking about it for like 5-10 minutes, and I'm like, "Damn, like." Am I even allowed to like they deleted it? Like it's not there anymore. Like I know TSN picked it up and stuff, but like it's not on Disney anymore. So then someone messed up and posted that when they weren't supposed to, but then it was actually okay and everything.
I think it was all like little teasers.
But that was a big deal though. Like when that photo got posted, like
especially, from a marketing point of view, and like forgive me, I know nothing about what their actual marketing is, but I love looking at sort of like what gets people riled up. From a marketing point of view, it's this really smart thing where they're like, okay, the Ducks are coming back, and they have to appeal to a generation that have never seen a duck, like seen the Mighty Ducks or a duck film. They need to appeal to us who grew up with it, and we have certain expectations, and they have to figure out like what the connection point is between the two of those. So I do think that their marketing was kind of going in two directions intentionally to try and get us excited, and then to also make the younger generation, the 13-year-olds right now who are watching it, who are obsessed with Brady and who are obsessed with Max and with Sway, to get them to go like, oh, this is actually your show. Don't listen to your parents.
Absolutely.
And they were also speaking to the older generation going like, this is actually your show. Don't listen to the kids.
But it's like, again, maybe I'm biased because like hockey's a cute, like these were my movies growing up, right? Like I was from Montreal, like hockey was my life and everything. And like, these were my movies. So like, I don't think there's a show I'm watching a lot of shows right now, but like I don't think there's this is like I'm not enjoying a show like I'm enjoying Mighty Ducks, man. It's crazy.
Man, yeah, this is like the top of things. I mean, for me, obviously, I watch it differently, I guess, because I get to be both in it and excited by it. But in terms of like, I don't know why this is coming to mind. Maybe because we said it earlier. But in terms of things that I watch obsessively that tie into the Ducks, man, for me, it's Letterkenny. As a good Canadian,
Dylan Playfair, Coach T.
Yo, listen, I don't get that excited meeting people. I get excited meeting people like, oh, it's great to meet you. Like, let's get to know each other. But even knowing that I was going to be working with like Emilio Estevez at some point, I was like, that's really cool. I'm sure he's nice. And then I read the cast list and I was like, Dylan Playfair's in this? That's amazing.
Do you know he was only supposed to be on one episode? Do you know about that?
He was supposed to be, so Paul's character, the sports psychologist, was actually supposed to be Dylan. It was supposed to be essentially Jonesy and Riley. Yeah. So they were supposed to be a duo, and then something went sideways, and then he became Coach K, or Coach T, which he deserves to be. Like he's such a, and I can't wait for everybody to see kind of like his arc.
It's amazing. No, the whole show is amazing. But you do a great job, man. Like I really enjoy your character. Like really do. Like it's awesome. Like I hope we see more of you. You know what I mean? But like it's awesome. Like I really enjoy it.
Yeah. It's nice. We get little bits and stuff. My favorite thing is like we're on set all the time, just in the background. And I couldn't be blessed with like a better group of people to be around. Like aside from getting to work with Camelia, who plays my wife, there's also Max's parents, which is Amy Good-Murphy and Jane Stanton. And Jane is a comedian, by the way. I don't know if you've met her. They're both comedians, excuse me. But Jane is a comedian who has a podcast right now called High School Sucked, which if you have not listened to it, check it out.
High School did suck, so maybe I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah, dude, it's very funny. Her and Darcy Michaels are pretty hilarious on it. But between the two of them, it's like nonstop jokes. And then you have like
because it's true. That was your crew, right? That was like your crew. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my good friends, Courtney Richter, plays Bella's mom. I'm losing character name versus real name, but anyways, with the cape and
Lauren Gibby, yeah,
show-
Lauren Gibby's mom.
Yeah, exactly, Lauren Gibby's mom. And so like it was crazy getting to be on set with like one of my best friends for
That's
like a couple
amazing.
months there.
You know who I love too, who's like a fan favorite? Winnie, like Emily Hain.
Oh my god!
Like
Have you interviewed it?
No, it's in the works, but
Winnie is a star. I didn't get to cross paths with Winnie very much. I think we were on set maybe one day together. If
but
not
like
two,
her scenes. Well, first of all, okay, Nick the Stick Gaines, like Maxwell Simpkins. You mentioned like
Max is amazing.
he's been on the show.
Amazing.
He's been on the show.
Yeah, he's
how
like,
funny is he?
Oh my! You listen. Let me tell you something. You can interview him. You can talk to him. You will never really understand how funny this kid is until you just follow him around for a day. Like he would step off the ice, and and like us parents would be in the stands, and he knows all of us obviously.
Yeah.
But we're amongst extras, right? Like there at some point there was like 50, 60, 70, 80 extras kind of like scattered around. And he would engage a stadium full of adult extras and have everyone dying laughing. That is like some Chris Farley level stuff. Like he taps into something, and he's so wholesome and he's so sweet.
But he steals he's like, there's some like last episode he wasn't like he's in it, but it's not like the focal point. But he like there's 2 scenes stole the episode.
Even those little moments that he has, like
he
just delivers lines. He understands comedy. He grew up on sets. He is a learner. Like he's paying attention to everybody. And it's funny. Like I can wax poetic about Max, and it's not to take away from anybody. Like everybody brings their A game and has something to do. He's just this like crazy comic energy that's pretty amazing. And when you pair him with his moms on the show, Jane and Amy,
I'm gonna interview them. I'm gonna interview them soon, so that's gonna be fun.
They're so good and they're so funny.
I gotta interview Camellia too. I need to interview her too. That'd be cool too.
Yeah, she's great.
Which would be awesome. Antonio, thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me in the window between one kid sleeping and me going to get the other one.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, Mighty Ducks Game Changers. They can watch it now on Disney Plus.
Yep.
Every Friday, like we said, and they can follow you on social media to keep updated with everything.
Totally. Yeah.
What's the handle?
My handle is just my first and last name, Antonio Cayonne.
Amazing. Well, this has been
on Instagram and see what I'm up to. Not
amazing. This has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Till next time, it's Antonio and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.